2 weeks.
Yeah, we're now in December, the last week before Christmas.
Yes.
It's after Hanukkah.
It's after Hanukkah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me started on Hanukkah. I hate Hanukkah.
Oh. But it's a fire
Like
hazard.
the great, well, yeah, it's a fire hazard. Nobody ever talks about that. Probably it's not that big of a fire hazard, I guess. I just feel like I'm not a big fan of Hanukkah because I like Jewish holidays because there's always like a meaning. Like there's no like they're completely like untainted. You know what I mean? Like Christmas is just Saturnalia. It is.
No, absolutely, 100%.
Like Easter, it's okay. Yeah, like Jesus came back from the dead, and
Yeah, but it's also the spring festival, Easter or something, which is like the
Right.
fertility.
exactly.
season.
So that's hence the rabbits.
Yeah.
So, Jewish holidays, they don't have that. Like Rosh Hashanah, New Year. Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. Purim is, there's like a story behind it. Hanukkah, there's a story behind Hanukkah, but it's not that big. It's only big because of Christmas. Passover, there's a great story.
Unfortunately, I think with religions, they're all like, well, this competing religion has this holiday here. How are we gonna market our holiday to match
Right,
theirs?
exactly. And the thing is, like, there's so many great things about Hanukkah. It's funny, the last video got released during Hanukkah, we didn't talk anything about it, but yeah, there's somebody like a dreidel, like all the letters on a dreidel stand for a great miracle happened there, and then in Israel they have different dreidels because they changed the last words of a great miracle happened here.
Mm.
So there's a different letter on the dreidel. I'd be a much better Jew if I knew what it was, but I don't because I'm a terrible Jew.
And it was all about the oil was meant to last one night, the last
in the last
8
8 days,
which
right.
again is a fire hazard.
Right.
Mm.
So, anyway, on to whiskey. Speaking of fire hazard and burning, let's drink some whiskey.
So this is part of the Whiskey of the Month Club.
Right.
Which got sent to us. I don't believe they sent us any delicious nibbles with this one. Or if they did they got nibbled?
Really? They probably got nibbled already. I
they
think
did
this
get
was one of those times where, like, I think this one got sent, and then you were like, Tina ate all the chocolate.
I'm pretty sure that happened.
That's 100% what happened.
But
If it didn't, we just got to throw it.
Alexander Murray and Co. from the Highlands of Scotland.
Yeah.
12 years old. The interesting thing about this is it is cask strength. So it's 54.2%, which is about 10% higher than most whiskies that we drink.
Yeah.
Distilled in 2004. It's funny, 12 years ago that. So it's been distilled in
Bottled.
2004.
It's 12 years old, so it was bottled for 2 years.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I get very confused when someone says 20 years ago. I think it's the 1980s, and then
Yeah, no, it's not.
really isn't.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, just speaking of time. So the time difference between the same time difference exists now and the end of the 90s as that 70s show and the end of the 70s. So, like, potentially, if they were going to make that 70s show now, they would make that 90s show.
It's scary, isn't it?
It's very scary.
It does.
Just a little tidbit for you.
I like the look of this one just because this is very much about, this is a Scottish whiskey, but it seems to have, like, the stamp of the Englishness.
Okay. Is it a Scotch? I didn't.
It is a Scotch. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey.
Okay. Do we
Born
know
in
which
1911.
region?
Yes, Highland.
Oh, okay. Highland.
By Alexander Murray and Company.
Okay.
Let's see, a fine expression of single malt. Yeah. Matured in ex-bourbon casks and bottled at casks.
Did you try this one, or somebody else did?
I think someone opened this at the
party.
we had.
Okay.
I have to admit, when I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, this is a very boring label."
Yeah.
But the more I looked at
Very light.
it is. I've been writing a lot about whiskey in a lot of the books I've been doing recently. I've been writing about whiskeys.
Okay.
So my new book is about a pirate, a modern day pirate, and he likes his whiskey, and he drinks J&B Rare, which is a blended whiskey, and then he just raided someone's house and stole a bunch, and I put this in there because I was like,
Okay.
That's quite a healthy measure, mate. So cheers.
Cheers. It smells very strong.
It does smell very strong. It smells very smooth as well. Beautiful colour.
Yeah. It's lighter than the last two we've done.
Oh, that's very smooth. I like that a lot.
I'm trying to think of like what I'm tasting. I'm trying to like let it sink in.
To me, this tastes like Scotch.
Okay.
Which I know sounds odd, but I think, with the 4 weeks ago, we tried the rare cask, which was,
Right.
mostly aged in sherry barrels.
Yeah.
The last one was Glenlivet Founders Reserve, which was interesting. But this, to me, this tastes like, I think this is like, how I like shitty European lager?
Yeah, this is what you like.
Yeah, this is like the
Scotch.
the shitty European lager of Scotch, which
Scotch.
is not to say it's bad. I think it's exactly what
Yeah.
you want, or exactly what you expect.
Right.
You can taste the wood in it.
Right.
It's got a nice smoothness to it. It's strong. You don't look impressed.
I'm not. I don't know. I feel like Chris Rock had a joke about the first porn you see
Mm-hmm.
greatly and this analogy is going to fall apart very quickly. The first porn you see, like, that affects like your sex life. And then I feel like the first whiskey you have. Do you remember the first whiskey / scotch that you drank?
Yes.
What was it?
There was a brand called the Claymore,
Okay.
which is the one parents drank, which is a blended whiskey from Scotland, very cheap, I guess.
Okay.
Which I would say actually probably
Yeah.
tasted a fair bit like this. I
Okay.
can't quite remember,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a high-end Scotch at all. It was like
Yeah.
uh,
So I remember the first one I had was Macallan, which is maybe why you thought that Macallan was my favorite. I don't know if I ever told you Macallan was the first one I drank.
But that's interesting. Also, to have that as your first Scotch, to have a single malt is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like single malts so
Mm.
much. Because my parents always had Dewar's in their liquor cart. They didn't really have a cabinet, and you've seen their cart, so they like, I mean, they taped up the, I don't know, for whatever reason they taped up the tops when we moved, and that was quite a number of years. It was like 18 years ago.
And Dewar's
they
is like
still-
probably the Claymore was kind of like Dewar's level. Like
Yeah,
blended.
I feel like Dewar's, Johnny Walker, those are like very prevalent for like where, in America at least,
Yeah.
for, like every bar has those. But yeah, I was at a hotel bar and I had Macallan and I was with a much older coworker. I was with a coworker who's like my dad's age. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy you a drink." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, what do you, like, what are you drinking?" He's like, "I like to have, I think he liked having like vodka and soda, which is kind of like a weird."
I never see the point.
Yeah, I don't.
I
see the
do
point
not
either.
see the point at all.
Yeah, and he's like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I want to try a scotch." And he was like, "All right, cool." And I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "I'm not a big scotch person." And we asked the bartender. I was like, "What would you recommend?" And he was like, "Macallan." I was like, "Deal, done."
So how did you drink it?
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
Always neat. I did do. I shouldn't say always neat. I did kind of venture into the rocks.
Because I remember when our first episode about our beverages, it was cubes or spheres.
Yes. Yeah, which is weird because I think even at that point, I don't know if I liked. I think maybe that was when I was transitioning back to neat.
Yeah.
Because at that point, when I wrote that episode, I was drinking a lot of scotch. I mean, like, that was kind of like a low point in life. Not that I'm like, that I was drinking, like, forget my sorrows, but that was just kind of like, I was very, like, anxious a lot. I had a lot going on. And then, for whatever reason, I bought Macallan. And I had a glass of Macallan by my nightstand. And I had I have a glass that I still keep on my nightstand, but I don't drink every night now. And I have a glass that my friend, who I went to go visit in Ohio a month ago, when I was the best man in his wedding, he got us all glasses to all the groomsmen, and it says, like, your name, and then it says, like, groomsman, and mine says best man. And I was drinking that, like, every night. I would go get an ice cube and put it in, and then I would pour some Macallan, and I would drink it. So I think that's when I was writing that episode. I was probably drinking scotch at that point, and I think that's why I included the ice thing. Because I remember thinking, like, I really wish I had a sphered ice cube right now.
I think that's very interesting. And then
Yeah.
and the other day I poured somebody a scotch and I just did it neat. And like I appreciate the fact you didn't even ask me if I wanted ice.
Yeah.
Um,
I had a nice burn. I just drank like a
I like
large
it.
portion. That was very burny. Yeah, I like it too. It's not.
It's woody. It's got you can taste the wood.
Yeah. It's the names are always so weird with Scotch. Like Alexander Murray doesn't particularly sound like a Scotch to me. Probably because Arthur Murray is a dance company around here.
Well, Murray is a Scottish name, but I know what you mean. I have a
Okay.
feeling that this was like some Kingsman-style English chap who was like,
Yeah.
we ought to go to Scotland and make some whiskey.
Yeah,
And then they went
yeah,
there
yeah.
and were like, okay, Alexander Murray and go. But, I mean, I like it. I think there is a lack of adventurousness
Yeah.
that kind of works for it. It's like, this is Highland single malt whiskey.
Yeah.
It's aged in ex-bourbon barrels
Right.
for 12 years. Apart from being cask strength, I don't think there's anything like
Right.
distinctive about it, but I like
Yeah,
it.
that's
It's kind
good.
of,
Okay. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just not. It wasn't anything that really caught my eye. Okay, so I guess this would be an interesting one too. So 2004. Do you remember what you were doing?
yes.
I think we had an episode where we like a whiskey tasting where we did this. But what were you doing in 2004?
2004 was the last summer I worked in Paris. I was
Okay.
married to Tina, but we had lived apart for the first 6 months of our marriage.
Okay.
So, yeah, I worked in Paris, and then I moved to England, and Tina came and joined me.
Okay.
And yeah, that was interesting because that was almost like the stage where I stopped being Eurotrash and I became an adult. So,
Okay.
like, got my apartment. And
Yeah.
it's funny. I moved in with my best friend in England, and he was like, "I've got this wonderful apartment. It's fantastic." I'm like,
Yeah.
"You do realize I'm bringing my wife, right?" He's like, "Oh,
Sure.
oh, all right then. Okay, I suppose." And he seemed genuinely surprised by it, but and that was good. And that was the years living in England. But
Yeah.
and so that was when I got like my first job. I was in radio, but it was interesting. But
Yeah.
that was kind of when I went like legit.
Okay.
But I think it was a good year.
Yeah. All right.
What were you doing in 2004?
I was in my first year of high school.
Okay.
2004. So it's very, very different. The Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in 86 years, which I was pissed about. But no, I mean, overall, like, 2004 wasn't a bad year. I guess it was a pretty good year. I think 2004 was the year I had a crush on this girl for a very long time, which is a very prevalent theme throughout the show. And she wasn't really interested, and then my cousin, maybe this was 2005. Whatever. For the sake of this episode, it's 2004. So my cousin started dating my friend, and then my friend and I went to go visit my cousin and her friend was the one that I had the crush on, and then her friend and I hooked up, and I think that was 2004. I think 2004 was also the year that I met Samantha, who was like my long high school crush. I had a crush on this girl like all 4 years, and then I remember like I asked her, I was like, "Hey, like, do you want to go to prom together?" And she was like, "Oh, you know what? Like somebody else just asked me like 2 weeks ago." I was like, "Son of a bitch!" And then I felt so vindicated because her prom date got arrested like 2 weeks before prom. So I was like, should have said yes to me, man. So I think that was 2000. That was 2000. What I was doing in 2004. So I was just meeting girls. So you got married, and I.
Well, I was already married, and I remember I was in
Okay.
Paris. 2004, I think the most distinct thing I did, I pulled an all-nighter.
Yeah.
I went for breakfast at the Ritz-Carlton in Paris.
Okay.
Because they were the only place I knew that did a fry-up.
Yeah.
And that was good, and I remember coming back at like 2 in the morning, and it wasn't even taking a selfie because we didn't have... I had like a big boxy digital camera, and I remember taking a picture in the...
Of yourself?
Of myself and the person I went with. It was a platonic, like,
Okay.
all-nighter with a female
Yeah.
friend at that point. But it was, I remember that, like,
Yeah.
staggering in at like 6 in the morning and then going straight to work.
You know, I think 2004 was probably the first time I got drunk, too. The first time I got drunk was with my cousin Mitchell, and we were in his room. He was he's 9 years older than I am. So if I was like 13 or 14, I had to have been 14 in 2004. And he was like, "Hey, do you want?" Like, he had a fridge in his room, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to like drink?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, man!" Like, because I was 13, 14, whatever.
And so he was like 21, 22.
He was like 20. He was like 23, yeah. And it's actually my mom's cousins. His dad and my grandfather are brothers, and we drank, I guess, screwdrivers or vodka and orange juice. Yeah, so we drank screwdrivers, and I got very sick because I drank a lot. And
that's a dangerous start.
Yeah, and I remember it worked out really well because I was like vomiting like when I got home because I was so sick, and I was like, and my parents like, "Oh my god, like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, fucking, it was Aunt Sandy's house." Because like they had a very dirty house when I was younger, and we actually haven't been to their house in a number of years. But
the whole point of screwdrivers. So vodka got introduced in the United States in 1946 with the Smirnoff brand, and the people who used to build skyscrapers used to mix it with their orange juice and stir it with a screwdriver.
That's why they call it a screwdriver.
Yeah, that's why it's called a screwdriver. And because it didn't have the smell of alcohol in their breath. So people couldn't tell they were drinking, yeah.
Interesting. Fun fact, session beers are also called session beers because you can drink them while you're at work.
I always heard it was like you pull a session because you're not going to get effed up in them.
Right. And then you don't smell like beer after you come back from lunch.
And it's interesting because now we drink a lot of craft beers and they're all like 7, 8, 9%, which is like...
And it's also interesting because I drink beer at work. Did I tell you about Beer Fridays?
No, but I mean, I come from the advertising agency world where we used to drink on the job all the time.
So we have, at my firm, we have half-day Fridays. And a couple of weeks ago, my boss was like, "Hey, we have half-day Fridays." And we're like, "You know that we have deadlines." And he was like, "Yeah, we gotta change this." So like, the deadlines obviously aren't changing. We have clients who need stuff built. And we need drawings out. So he started bringing beer for us every Friday. This has been the past month. And by the time this is filmed, it's going to be 8 weeks. And we all every Friday 3 o'clock, we're beer o'clock, and we all drink beer with him.
I think it's fantastic. I used to love it, the agency. It's funny, my buddy Frank, who you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to work with him.
It's his birthday the day we're filming, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Still a lot, Frank.
And he used to have a bottle of vodka at his desk, and then we had a boss called Ben, who's I always called a guru. We used to go into his office and he used to sit there. He had his 70s shirt down like that.
Yeah,
He'd be like, "Good morning, gentlemen," and then he'd bring out a bottle of tequila and we'd all do and stuff. And it was like Mad Men.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I remember the pay wasn't good, the hours were ridiculous, but the people I worked with were fantastic, and you live that lifestyle. And it's kind of I can see why people get addicted to the agency lifestyle. Yeah.
I think that there's something that's very. I think when you love what you do. I genuinely love doing what I do. I had a very stressful day at work today, and but I love what I do, and it was it was still fun. I worked almost 11 hours today, and phenomenal. I had a good day, and every day's a good day when you truly love what you do. I think that you write for a living, and that's something you love to do.
And I think you do have tough days. Today, I got back into it, and I was just I was excited about what I was writing.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is there's so many. When you feel passionate about something, I'll go home and somebody will be like, "How was your day?" And I'm like, "It was good." And I'm like, "What'd you do today?" I'm like, "I designed 30 layouts for a locker room." It was that's so, to somebody else, that sounds so stupid and so, bleh. But I'm like, this is fascinating. Because then you're like, well, what if we did this? What if we put the lockers like this? And we did, a figure eight? And, I love architecture. I truly, it was, my life has been filled with finding things that I love that I didn't know had a name. I loved architecture before I knew what architecture was. Obviously, it sounds so weird because, everybody knows architecture. You know what I mean? You know what it is, but, to truly know it and appreciate it until, we're going to Chicago 2 weeks after this is airing, and we're going to Farnsworth House, which was I believe it was Mies van der Rohe. It'll look horrible if I got that wrong. But yeah, I mean, like, just I can't wait to, like, study that house and, like, to go and just, like, feel that, you know, and, like, to think, like, somebody, like, there's something that's, like, so divine about it. You know, there's something that's so organic with these inorganic materials. There's something so organic and natural about, like, order, and to just, I mean, truly, like, it's, like, amazing. You know, and I think that you probably feel the same way about writing. You know,
and we spoke about it. We didn't get it on film, but you were talking about the character McKenna. It was named from Glenn McKenna or whatever, which was the fictional single malt whiskey that they drank in How I Met Your Mother, which is part of these. I love stuff like that. I love, like, dissecting and putting away the threads, and I find it really interesting. I write romance books, which I think a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, whatever, it's romance, but so if you read, like, I put so much stuff into my books. That I'm like, people don't get, but it's just fun.
Yeah. Well, I think I totally get that, and I think that, like, the one of the biggest things from my childhood was, this is gonna be a very long video, but whatever, you're watching.
I'll see what I'm gonna pause and make sure that we've got enough.
Okay.
Yep, we're still going well.
Yeah,
we're about halfway through the tape.
Good. So one of the biggest influences from my childhood was my dad used to read to my sister and I every night. And, you know, like, you kind of, like, I was always very into, like, much like Martin is, like, I was a very precocious child, and I would always want to read, like, Frankenstein or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I'm, like, 8 years old, and I'm reading, like, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, like, not, like, an illustrated, like, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and, like, Robert Louis Stevens', you know, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and, like, truly, like, just enjoying them and, like, just the nuance of it. But my sister was she's a typical kid. She liked, you know, she liked Dr. Seuss and whatnot. Maybe I'm just remembering when she was younger more than I'm remembering when I was younger and like that stuff. But anyway, she loved Horton Hears a Who. And the biggest theme from Horton Hears a Who is a person's a person no matter how small. And I think that a detail is a detail in your art, no matter the size of your audience. Like, we film adult beverages. There are so many nuances that nobody catches. But it's fun for me to write. And I think that there's things that you write about that are fun for you to write. And there are things that very small, subtle things that, like, I design that other people at my firm design. I mean, 60% of the work that my firm does is K through 12 stuff. You're not doing crazy designs. You know, we're not doing, like, a Louis Kahn library for a public school. You know, we're doing, you know, you're basically, you know, redoing doors, and you're creating secure vestibules so people can drop off their kids' lunch that they forgot. But the school that I'm working on now, we're doing an addition. We're building a main office on the east side of the building. And then we're also doing a connecting corridor from the gym to one of the hallways. And the office addition that we're doing is steps down. And then the corridor addition is steps down. So they, like, fit together like a puzzle piece. Even though they're, like, probably, like, half a football field apart, they would fit together like a puzzle. Nobody is going to catch that. Literally nobody. Because I didn't even catch the first time. Because, like, when I'm looking at it, I'm not looking at it in full. I'm looking at it as, like, this section and then this section. But I'm like, that's so interesting. Because Chris, who is, like, our main designer, he thought of that. And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. You know, and, like, I'm sure that you have thousands.
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting. I didn't catch it. The first episode of the new season of Adult Beverages, we lost some of the footage.
Right.
And it was interesting. And I came up with the solution of, like, let's do this. And you're like, no, we need to have this called intro, because it was all about you and Chanel talking about... you and Marion talking about the whole idea of meet cute, and then you have a meet cute, and it's interesting. It's like, there is a structure to everything, and then people don't necessarily, like, appreciate it until you look at the big picture.
Mm-hmm. I remember one of the biggest compliments I ever got on the show was something that you said. I don't even know if you remember this, but I wrote the Halloween episode, which is airing closer to Thanksgiving, and when we finished, normally we do we'll go do extensive table reads for our episodes, and we did the Halloween episode, and I remember we got done reading it, and you looked up and you were like, "This is brilliant," and I was like, "Wow, that means so much," because you're a writer, and I think that there's a lot of times where you'll be like, "Let's add this," or let's pick this character name because this would be a good Easter egg. That when I did the Halloween episode, and you looked up and you're like, this is good. This is really nuanced and good. This is very well put together. I love
absolutely the
flat.
thematic version that you went, the thematic journey you went.
We can talk about it. It was the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I think that was one of the biggest. It's always nice when you throw something in like that and somebody catches it and you're like, yeah, I'm glad you caught that. So.
And you do a lot of those things, like the Oscar Wilde and the quotes from the AFI movies and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's true. We never really addressed that. Yeah, some of the AFI movie quotes are very obvious, and then some of them are very subtle.
But I notice in my books, I will always, in every single one, I end up with a quote from Ian Fleming for some reason.
Okay.
Which then they're always relevant to the thing, but it's kind of fun. But then
is Ian Fleming similar to Jake? I don't know him as well as other authors, but is Ian Fleming similar to J.K. Rowling in that she basically only has Harry Potter and she has other books, but is Ian Fleming only?
Ian Fleming was a journalist.
Okay.
And then he wrote James Bond. He wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Did he really?
Yes.
I had no idea about that. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny, if you actually watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang knowing that, you'll suddenly oh, I can see all the things. And that had...
Well, I've only ever seen one James Bond movie.
Oh, yeah, we have to...
Which is the bane of your existence. It's the fact that we hang out all the time and I've only ever seen one.
Okay, next time we'll do that.
I think we should watch A View to Kill.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
Do you really?
I enjoy all of them for the different things. I mean, some of them are cheesy as hell, but...
A View to Kill is universally the worst James Bond movie. I'm curious to know if there's a James Bond podcast.
I thought Quantum of Solace was garbage. I thought Spectre was pretty garbage.
Spectre was pretty bad. Yeah.
Out of all those ones, out of all the
so you really don't like Daniel Craig?
No, I like Skyfall is one of my favorite, and I think the second half of Casino Royale is brilliant.
Yeah.
In terms of Roger Moore, I would say the early ones kind of get a bit cheesy, but they try really hard. Like A View to a Kill, they try kind of hard.
Yeah.
The one before it, Octopussy, they try really hard.
Yeah.
Which is, Octopussy is based off, it's the name of a story in a short story collection, which includes, but the story is based off, what is it, Property of a Lady, but they call it Octopussy. Anyway, we can go into James Bond.
Okay.
This video has been going on forever, so we should probably...
We have one more whiskey. Let's do that one and we can continue our James Bond conversation on the next video.
Absolutely. We don't have one more whiskey in here.
No, we do. We have downstairs. We have one more. We have the mint one.
Ah!
We said we weren't going to allude to any in the last video. We'll allude to this one. So yes, we have the mint one.
Sounds good.
So
okay.
We'll continue our James Bond talk. Cool. Till next time. Yeah. See ya. 2 weeks.
Shake 'em notched up.
Yeah.